Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. It's Friday, which means it is Attic Find Friday, the best day of the week. I have some amazing videos coming out in the next couple of weeks. I am super excited. Maybe the most excited I've been for my channel in a long time. Got some interviews, got some awesome Attic Find Friday stuff, got some general stories from people. I get a fair amount of stories from people via email asking if it's worthy of a video, and sometimes I have to say, no, I'm sorry, I appreciate you sending it. It's a cool story, but it's not something I would put in a video. But I have one today that is an Attic Find Friday. It's an Attic Find. I have another one coming out in the next couple of weeks from a subscriber. And then I also have just some awesome, really exciting stuff. First of all, before I move on, I have a Whatnot sale Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're new to Whatnot, sign up with my link that's in the description to this video. You get a $15 credit for your first purchase, and you can use that during that sale. It's going to be vintage singles, all baseball. I don't remember if I have any graded ones in there, but it's mostly raw vintage baseball cards. I was on Hobby Think Tank last night. Mike and I drafted the best vintage Topps card designs, Topps baseball card designs. It was a lot of fun. Feedback has been awesome on it, so go over and check that out. I shared it. And then tomorrow on Hobby Hotline live, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Bench Clear Media. Hobby Think Tank is also on Bench Clear Media, so check those out. I'm looking forward to Hobby Hotline, and then at the National next week, I'll be doing Hobby Hotline live on the main stage with the group. So really excited about that. Let's get moving on. Attic Find Friday, which is sponsored by Iron Guard Supplies, the best place for you to get your baseball card or sports card supplies. They have supplies I've never even heard of before, but they also have your traditional top loaders, sleeves, binder pages, and whatever else you could be looking for. Probably they have it. Click on the link and then enter in code JUNKWAX20 for 20% off your first order. All right, so got an email from Chris. Chris was a college baseball player back in the late 80s, early 90s, it looks like. And then he had a good friend and college teammate named Brad Tyler. You may recognize that name if you're familiar with, I think, the Cleveland organization, because he was a scout for them for many years. Brad played minor league baseball in 1995 for Rochester. Rochester was playing the Columbus Clippers in 1995. So Chris drove 5 hours from southern Indiana to Columbus so he could watch the game on a day when Rochester visited the Clippers. Now, this was on May 23rd of 1995. I've tried finding the box score for this game. I couldn't find it, but I'm not a journalist. I have verified every other piece of this information from Chris. It is a legit story. And that's, I don't want to produce any false information, but I did confirm that Jeter played for Columbus in 1995. This was right before Jeter was called up to the Yankees. At the time, Clippers had Jeter, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettitte, Oddibe McDowell. I think they had Todd Benzinger, my guy Todd Benzinger, for a short time that season. Chris watched the game. He bought the program, which is a little foreshadowing for you. And then he drove the 5 hours back home, put the program in a box, and forgot about it for a long, long time. Fast forward about 21 years. In 2016, and 3 or 4 moves later, Chris was between jobs and needed some money, so he started selling off old sports memorabilia from his time working for the Birmingham Barons in the 90s and early 2000s. Now, Birmingham Barons, of course, were the home of Michael Jordan when he played in the minor leagues. It's a White Sox AA affiliate. Chris missed Jordan by 3 years, but he had some old Jordan programs during that time that he had obtained afterwards. So he started selling stuff from his time as working for the Birmingham Barons. He brought a box down from his attic that he wasn't sure what was in the box. He just knew it was old stuff from his time there. He had amassed a really nice bobblehead doll collection from his time, 8 years in the minor leagues. You know, minor league teams love giving away bobblehead dolls of players and old players. And so he had collected a bunch of them by trading with other team employees and other teams. And so he was selling his collection to a dealer in Philadelphia. And he happened to find the program from that game at Columbus. And he looked through it, had a Derek Jeter card in the program. And he did a little research, didn't find anything on it. So he offered it to the dealer. Do you want this program? It's got this Jeter card in it. And the dealer said, nah, I've got too much of that junk already. And the dealer passed on it. Well, Chris's wife did a little bit more research after the dealer passed on it and discovered that Small Traditions Auction House had just sold one. Small Traditions, by the way, appears to have ended after a trimming scandal in 2020. I did a little research on them. I had a big trimming scandal in 2020, and I haven't found any more evidence of life or proof of life of Small Traditions. I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, so Small Traditions was selling a Beckett Jeter Columbus card from 1995, graded a 9, and they auctioned it off for $2,000. So at this point, Chris's wife is like, holy cow, we have a $2,000 card potentially. At that point, the PSA population, there was one 9, there was one lower grade, and one autographed PSA DNA. Today's population, there are 14. 6 of those are 9s, and there are 5 autographed through PSA DNA. So Chris researched what PSA is looking for with perforated cards, and he started very carefully removing the card from the program, the yearbook. It was his first PSA submission. He included a bunch of other cards. Actually, I'll put his submission details up here on the screen, and you can see he had some pretty sick cards. Vintage. He says he's a vintage guy, doesn't collect after like 1984 or 85, I think he said. And so this is just such a great collection of cards that he submitted in his first submission, plus that 95 Jeter. The Jeter came back a 9. So it was what he hoped for. All that research, all that work to get it out of there worked wonders. He didn't have a good grasp of the card market, and he worried that a bunch of other people would find this card and that would get flooded and the value would plummet. So he decided to sell right away. He also still needed the money. I don't know if he was still out of work between jobs or if he was just getting started with a job at the time. Either way, decided they needed to sell, and connected with a Jeter collector very smartly and agreed to sell it. Now, he told me how much he sold it for, what he traded it for, I should say. Asked me not to share that information, so I'm not going to, but suffice to say, I think for 2016, Chris did very well for himself. Pre-pandemic boom. The last public 9 sold, what I can tell you, in 2021 for $4,729 through PWCC's eBay. That's how long ago it was, since PWCC is no longer on eBay. There is one on eBay right now. This was actually what spurred Chris to email me. There's one on eBay right now. It has 6 days remaining, and it's at $787. I'm really interested to see how much that card goes for today. I will update you on a future video, so make sure you're subscribed. Let me know in comments, what do you think this card would sell for, and were you even aware that this card existed? I wasn't. I've heard of the Police Jeter card, I think from 1995 as well. Some more interesting things from Chris. Chris, in his 8 years for the Birmingham Barons, the most exciting thing, it sounds like he did, at least in my opinion. So Willie Mays started with the Birmingham Black Barons. He played for them from 1948 to 1950. And Chris, they were doing, the Birmingham Barons were doing a bobblehead doll of Willie Mays. And Chris negotiated the contract with Willie Mays. And he has the contract signed by Willie Mays right next to his signature as well, and a picture of Willie Mays autographing the bobbleheads. They negotiated 5 autographs from Willie Mays that they would auction off and then donate that money to the Say Hey Foundation, which is Willie Mays, or was Willie Mays' foundation. Pretty sure it still is. Chris also designed the bobblehead and worked with the factory, so pretty cool career for Chris here. Mays wanted to meet the team that was behind the bobblehead doll, And so they brought him up. Chris spent parts of 3 days with Willie Mays. They brought him to Rickwood Field, which is where Mays played. Rickwood is the oldest standing ballpark in America. It was built in 1910. Fenway Park was built in 1912. So just to give you an idea of how old Rickwood Field is. After signing the bobbleheads, he sat there with the 7 or 8 people from this team and just told stories for 3 hours. So imagine being part of this group just sitting there with Willie Mays telling you stories. And Mays, this was in the late 90s, so he would have been, I don't know, 70-ish, maybe. He also has a ball signed by Willie Mays. He has a sport magazine, vintage sport magazine signed by Willie. And Chris also did the Vita Blue and Reggie Jackson bobblehead dolls and has those autographed in his collections as well. So really cool stuff from Chris. If you have a story like this, I'd love to tell it. If you find something in your attic that's awesome, I'd love to tell it. If you just find one of these articles, you can send it to me. Chances are pretty decent that I'm already aware of it, but don't let that give you pause. Send it on over. I'm not going to guilt you about sending it. All right, that's it. Make sure you're subscribed. Click that like button, and make sure you're in my Whatnot sale on Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I will have a giveaway. All right, thanks very much for watching.